This is our cultural diversity training for Maze of Life Resource Center. What could I say about this training? That it was created, not this year, but I think last year, maybe right in the middle of COVID, because of it was an influx. It was an influx of heightened scenarios, people being murdered, George Floyd scenario. It was a culmination of racially charged incidents taking place in the United States of America. And I saw the trend, and I was approached by the organization to do some training with their employees. They work more so with DC FS kids, and their main goal was to, try to get an understanding of how to better service their families. But then it parlayed into doing different trainings with different community groups. This is normally a 3-part series. I don't know how far it's going to go with Maze of Life itself, but it's going to serve the purpose to prepare us. It's going to make us more effective in our practices with our clients, also with the community as well, because we understand that one of our spheres of influence or markets is primarily the community, and having a broader sense of awareness concerning individuals that you talk with, network with from a cultural dynamic is important, because it's easy to shut off opportunities because the people don't fit our experience. So I'll repeat that. It's easy, very, very easy to subconsciously close ourselves off to opportunities because of the past lived experience that doesn't fit what that person is delivering or what their approach is. So I'm just giving you a prelude, a foundational piece before we start going into the different dynamics of the cultural diversity experience. You should leave here open, more open to hear, more open to see, more open to frank with individuals that don't fit your cultural experience. And when we say culture, we're not speaking primarily of like color, black, white, tan. We're not speaking of that in itself. We're speaking of individuals that have a different cultural experience than we have. Maybe you grew up in some type of household in contrast to a person that didn't. Having a competency in terms of cultural diversity allows us to open up to really listen, not only to service individuals, but to be there as a shoulder to cry on, a person to lean on, people, an outlet that people have. So it's important to not just listen and shake our head, but listen to understand, to connect, and to respond accordingly. And sometimes that response is no response, because when you're sensitive to a person's experience, sometimes it's not meant for us to go into teaching mode. It's meant for us to stay in listening mode, and just from an understanding aspect. That's a foundational piece. This would be very, very interactive. Also, shout out to everybody that's on live. These trainings are importante to our growth and development individually and collectively as a family. Norman Brown quote, "The more diverse your company, the broader your reach. The more diverse your company, the broader your reach." Sometimes we get limited because our reach is limited as far as us interacting with different individuals. And again, I don't want you to box this in and say, Mr. Cage doesn't connect with this ethnic group of individuals because of what he may see on the outside. we're not necessarily talking about that. That could be a piece of it, a component of it, but it's more so a person or people becoming a turnoff because our experiences are different or we don't agree with, you know, their lifestyle choice. And I'm trying to be very specific when I make these statements because I don't want to be taken in a general sense. When I say lifestyle, I just mean the way they decide to live their life, not necessarily their sexuality, because that's a trendy topic right now in 2021, October 22nd. We're just talking about a person's conceptions, the lifestyle, the decision that they made. It's not necessarily speaking in terms of sexuality. So it's time. Cultural diversity training is needed and is going to be needed in the future. Now I'll give you a preference. If a person works for traditional, and I'm just going to be frank with you, well, I don't want to be Marcus, but I'm saying I'm going to be real, that sometimes when we find ourselves working in traditional job settings and traditional companies, they put this type of training in to meet a quota, just to say on the books, you know, we provided this cultural diversity training, everybody sign off, you know, to protect ourselves from any litigation or any legal ramifications that may be associated with a misunderstanding of interaction between one ethnic group or another or individual. Well, cultural diversity is not trendy. It's trendy for the majority, but it's necessary for the minority. It's needed and it's going to continue to be needed in the future because our culture evolves. And as our culture evolves, as different thoughts, concepts, lifestyles, decisions, value systems evolve, as facilitators, as service providers to the community, we have to remain on the cutting edge. So our tolerance of cultural differences has come to the surface. Now it's time to examine the ideas and the philosophies that have produced walls of division instead of bridges of opportunity. If you key in on any statements or words, terms, ideas, and philosophies, those components produce either a bridge of unity or a wall of division. So my life, thought, actions, behavior proceed from how I think and where my thinking comes from. It can either be a wall or a bridge. A wall separates and a bridge connects. Cultural diversity training cannot be an item on the checklist. I referred to that already. It must be an ongoing continuum of learning. Compliance is not good enough. Compliance is status quo. Compliance is mediocrity. Mediocrity. It's not good enough. It has to be an ongoing continuum of learning, not only terms, theory, methods, pedagogies, and all the different terms that people are familiar with in the educational system in those institutions, but it has to be an ongoing experience. So we learn at the highest apex through experience, not reading in the textbook and studying. Those are components, but that stuff has to be applied and internalized and seen with the right perspective for the right application. It's now the time to lift our nation from the quicksand of racial injustice to the solid rock of brotherhood. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. For our goals, and then we'll go into something more hands-on. Our goal is to evolve our narrative and behavior from what we are in relation to color, ethnicity, gender, and social groups to who we are as humans. When we first interact, now what I'm gonna do is I'm going to narrow the experience to what we experience when we service our clients. When we first encounter a person, for whatever class, of course, we don't label that individual or group based on their offense. We have to see them as humans. First and foremost, this person, male or female, is a human being. before they are a male, before they are a female, before they are African American, Caucasian, Latino. This person, a group of people, is a human or are humans. Objective. We're going to identify some limiting beliefs that have become walls instead of bridges. So that means that it's going to have to be, we're going to have to self-assess. So you can it's difficult to self-assess in your own wisdom and knowledge and experience. Hopefully, if you in live or you listening to this in the recorded version, then some of the statements that'll come from me will allow you to contrast and assess where your thoughts are, where your ideologies are, where your behaviors and actions are. And are those ideologies, actions, thoughts, behaviors limiting you? Because if you limit it, then your reach is going to be limited and your impact, what means of life will be limited as far as your practice expanded. Objective number 2, to combat cultural I like to pronounce this, prejudices and stereotypes. And you'll find out why as we go through. Objective number 3, to become culturally sensitive and competent. I give you an example that I was an observation of a conversation with family. It's a room of primarily women, well, all women, I would say. I'm the only male in the room. So I'm a fly on the wall, sitting there watching TV, and there's conversations going. And then one relative says to another, I won't give the specifics, but it was insulting to that person. And I knew it because I felt it when it was said, but the person was saying it out of their own pattern of behavior, thought life. But when the statement was made and I felt the offense, the person tried to bring me into it to have me agree with what they were saying. I had no response. In my mind, I said, you will not bring me into that at all. So the person that you made the statement to can be looking at me sideways. No, that's going to take my test. That's going to take my testimony. Keep in mind that I'm a male. These people were females, but everybody was African American. Again, the culturally sensitive and being competent is not necessarily boxed in by ethnicity or what some call race. It's experience on how we interact with one another. What is culturally acceptable for us as a group? And the person made a statement for her, from her aspect, it was acceptable. But from the person that she said it towards, it wasn't, and it wasn't acceptable to me. So I rejected it. How does that work in a service provider situation? Well, some things that we say to our clients are going to offend. I'll say that because they're supposed to, because it's supposed to irritate them, so to speak, shake them and stir them to step into their full potential. I'm saying the type of statements that we make that we've taken no thought into saying, they just come up and they're offensive in a counterproductive way, where the spirit in which we gave was wrong. Those are the type of thoughts and behaviors and conversations we got to be aware of. So quickly, my bio. So I'm the director of CAMS training and development and also talent acquisition. I was born and raised in Joliet. I grew up on the east side of Joliet where drugs, crime, that was a norm. Came out of that environment against all odds. I've been training for almost over 13 years in my region and abroad. Of course, I'm a certified life coach and anger management specialist. Completed my bachelor's degree in 2009, but a concentration of small business management and entrepreneurship. So I'll give you this other thought in association with cultural diversity, and I'll use that bio in conjunction. I am not limited to my geographic location. I know people that are, and that's their reality. But when a person is limited to their geographical location, they only could go so far because there are certain thoughts, there are certain behaviors, there are certain cultures that's rooted in that geographical location. And when a person can't find who they are outside of that, they're limited to it. And that limits a lot in terms of career, personal development, personal growth and development, family well-being, finances. It's a gamut of components that become limited when a person only sees themselves in their geographical location or finding their origin in that geographical location. My responsibility as facilitators is this. I'll go from bottom to top. Provide a safe environment for the audience to participate, learn, and grow. Focus on a participant's individual growth and development and allow participants to have their own opinion. Fourthly, provide real-world experience in relation to the topics discussed. This is really all of our responsibilities as facilitators representing Maze of Life. We want to provide a safe environment. Safe environment allows your clients to share. So say, for me, a person, I don't use profanity. That's just not on my menu. But I do have clients that have used profanity. And once I set that foundation expectation that that's how I move, they may compliment it, they may not, but they have free reign to be themselves. Now, if they want to correct themselves, then depending on the age of the person, if the person is seasoned in their age, then I respect that. If the person is a younger person, then my responsibility as an elder is to correct them with love, you know, based on the expectations that they are aware of before they come into the class. Secondly, and I'm going back and I'm not reverting just, but repeating, our responsibilities as facilitators is to focus on the individual growth and development. That has to be measured. And I think I alluded before in the previous training, it can't be, we can't only, we cannot just measure our clients' growth and development subjectively. They have to be measured objectively. Subjectively meaning from the subject, from the person. Oh, you know what? I feel like I learned a lot. That was good. How do we measure that though? There has to be an objective measurement system in place, whether it's a numerical, whether it's quality or quantity. So a quality example is the measuring a person's growth and development. I use growth moments. When I start a class at times, I'll start out with a formal introduction and ask everybody, what was your growth moments? What were some of the challenges that you faced this week based on what was shared last week? How did you overcome them? Give us a strategy. So that's more the qualitative aspect of measuring growth and development. The quantitative is me asking the person, patience. Let's rate your patience from 1 to 5. 1 being unacceptable, 5 being acceptable. How would you measure your patience, you know, from 1 to 5? Person may say 2. Okay, why would you identify yourself as a 2? Well, identify myself as 2 because of A, B, and C. Well, how do we get you to a 4? So that's allowing them to objectively, numerically measure their growth and development, because that gives them the incentive to move forward, allow participants to have their own opinion, of course, and provide real world experience in relation to the topic discussed. We have to provide real world experience, meaning I lived it out. I lived it out. I'm giving you possibly theories, possibly ideologies, possibly methods, but I want to show you, I want to put flesh on the word that this is my challenge and this is how I overcome it. So I gave that review for you to give you some tools so you can understand your responsibilities as a facilitator, but also how to put those responsibilities in action. Warning labels, we will stop for the time being. I'll stop my share. I'll start a poll real quick. What you will see is, as I launch the poll, you will see a scenario. The scenario is going to ask you, if you had a warning label, what would yours say? And it's just multiple choice. So you can choose which response that you would choose, and we'll briefly discuss it. I'm launching the poll now. And I'll give you a minute to go through the poll. Also, let me know if you can see it. If you had a warning label, what would yours say? Would yours say, warning, I'm too much of a nice person? Would it say, caution, mouth and facial expressions work faster? I can't read the other part of that. The third one reads, get back, you don't know me like that? Okay, I saw somebody. Warning, you will receive your energy and return it with, I can't read the other either. I'm only going to read the ones I can see. Warning, don't kick the sleeping bear. I'm a human lie detector, proceed with caution. I don't know if Miss Tony can see that. I'll give her 10 seconds and then we'll stop it. Oh. Five, four, three, two, one. In this poll. Okay. Share the results. Let's see. Mouth and facial expression. Okay, we'll listen to your elaboration on that. Go ahead, I'm listening to you.
Me?
Yeah.
Facial expression. Okay, so as you get, yeah, facial expressions start first because my mind starts running first. I think before I say, usually it's before I say something. Not at the same time. So it's hard for me to hide my facial expressions when I have a certain opinion about something or something somebody did or something somebody said.
I got you. Understood. Miss Tony, did you have the opportunity to see the poll?
No, I'm listening to you, but I didn't see it.
Okay.
But I know facial expressions. I have that.
We're sisters.
Yeah. Yeah, you'll know. Because, you know, between the smacking of the mouth and the eyes rolling. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I give you, before we go into the next exercise, I give you something that in my early part of my professional teaching career was a hindrance, was the facial expressions. Because, and this goes back into the cultural diversity piece, when I first came into it on a daily basis, I was limited. And I was limited because I was dealing in the community, but I never had worked with young people to that extent every day. And the type of young people that I was working with was primarily from Chicago. If you're familiar with Chicago, even if you see the news, which is skewed to a degree, but those people have different type of experience in contrast to the city that I live in, which is 45 minutes outside, but it's different because the population is higher. But they would share stories with me, and because I was limited in my cultural competence, my facial expression would tell off on me before I could respond. And their response would be this: Mr. Cage, I'm not telling you nothing no more. They would say it just like that. I'm not telling you nothing no more. I said, why? Because when I tell you stuff, your face look crazy. Okay. And what my face was condemning them to the degree where they felt judged in a critical sense. So they shut down. Like, you know what? I'm not going to tell him that. But I was able to use their response to help me grow and develop. And I had to be conscious and intentional of my facial expressions. Then as I evolved and grew, they would come and tell me some of the strangest stories. And my response would be this. Okay, I understand. And then however the conversation will flow, it will flow. So that's something that helped me, tremendously grow and develop. And it allowed people to open up to me more and tell me more, which opens up more opportunity as a service, more opportunities to help people grow and develop, more opportunities to help people get free, and also help me get free at the same time. So I'm gonna share this with you all real quick. This is another piece that we can participate with. Let's see. This should be interesting. This should be interesting. So getting to know you. How old were you when you learned Santa wasn't real? How did you find out? These are various questions. How long does it take you to get ready in the morning? What is the longest you've gone without sleeping? Why? What is the best gift you have been given? And so we'll talk about the last one in a second. So how old were you all when you learned that Santa wasn't real? And how did you find out?
Man, I don't even know. My dad played Santa at church. So I don't remember him
So we
being
knew
real
early.
Yeah, right. So I knew about the
He was
story.
standing for everybody,
Right.
you know.
Everybody. So I don't remember. I remember it being a story, but I don't remember. I don't remember ever knowing him as real. Does that make sense? Like I knew
Yeah.
yeah, I mean I knew he was character and my dad played him at church. So
Right.
so we were never sort of given that as a storyline at Christmas. We knew our gifts came from them, our parents, that none of that was sort of perpetrated as a story, but I was okay with the fact that there was a Santa. There was a story about a guy who did this, and I separated that from it being the guy coming into the house. And I didn't like people dressed up as a kid anyway, like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. No costume.
My dad was the only one I would go to. I didn't trust anybody dressed up.
Yeah. I was one that thought Santa was real. And I found out I had to be maybe 9 or 10. And I had an old school Nintendo. And it was this game called Ninja Gate. Loved the game. I played it. And I may have had part 1. I probably wanted part 2. Went under the Christmas tree, opened my presents. That game was not there. And I think my mom put it under the tree late. But because I know her handwriting, she wrote from Santa. She wrote a little paragraph or so. And I opened it up and read it. Santa, not real. This is from Mama. because I was able to see her handwriting. So second question is, how long does it take you to get ready in the morning if you leave it out?
Depends on where I'm going, but not long.
Not long. Okay. Miss Tony, how long does it take you to get ready?
Oh, about an hour.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. If I'm leaving out in the morning, I normally prep the night before. Like if I'm going into a place like to work or something. But I try to prep. I'm a preparation type person. So I'll prepare the day before. And then it takes me minimum time to get out the door. Not even an hour, maybe 30 minutes, 45 minutes if I'm dragging, taking my time. What is the longest you have gone without sleep and why?
I don't know. I can't even. I don't know.
No. How about you, Miss Tony? I got to answer on top.
Probably 24 hours. I think about
Well,
Tony's
because I was truck driving,
Okay.
I would say 3 days
Without sleep? For real?
without sleep. 3
That's
days.
crazy. See, I didn't even know that.
Yeah.
But we did a breast cancer thing where we were doing a walk. So I was up that maybe 24 hours. I mean, it's usually some kind of activity like that that'll keep me up like that. But
Hmm.
yeah, that's crazy, Tony.
Yeah, 3 days.
I know, because that was extra, y'all.
Okay.
But
Yeah.
you have to do what you got to do, get that load there, and kind of fly under the radar a little bit.
Yeah. See, when I was in my former life, the old me, we used to pull what were called all-nighters. And all-nighters would be you would basically stay up and work, quotation mark. You would stay up and work, all night. But yeah, I think I probably stayed up from maybe 7 to 5 or 6 the next morning, work the midnight shift. And I want to give a pause because this getting to know you is a practical exercise. You can use various questions, but it's a practical exercise that uses the experience as bridges to unite under the umbrella of cultural diversity, because we've answered these questions differently, and it gives an opportunity for us to, wow, Miss Tony, you did that, oh my goodness, tell me more. And that works us in to connect, where if we focus on the experience and not the cultural dynamic from where we were raised or the pigmentation of our skin, then we remove walls quickly, because we connect heart to heart with a heartfelt experience. So last 2 questions. What is the best gift you have been given? What's the best gift you've been given?
On my birthdays, my daughters woke me up, handed me a note, and it told me to pack a bag because they were taking me somewhere. I didn't know where I was going, but I ended up in Fredericksburg, Texas, at a bed and breakfast, winery bed and breakfast. So that's probably one of the best gifts that I've gotten over the years. Just spending time with them, on top of them taking charge of the whole thing, drove, all that. I didn't have to do anything. So that was nice. Yeah.
Okay. How about you, Miss Tony?
I would say my best gift is the gift from God, the gift of creativity. I think that's like the ultimate.
Powerful. Yeah. I think my best gift, I had to think about it, but I know my most recent gift that I got was from a person that was close to me. It was material stuff, some shoes, but it was some shoes that I had my eye on them shoes for a long time. And my fiance at the time got them for me. And I was, yeah, girl, you was paying attention. You was paying attention. But if you think about the commonalities that we all share in that specific example, the gift that we got was from people that was pivotal in our lives. So it wasn't from just any random individual. Some of the best gifts that we get is from people that are close to us and that know us sometimes better, than we know ourselves. So taking this practical exercise into play and breaking the walls of the cultural diversity piece is we're connecting with the experience itself. So when I'm running this in a situation where I'm using a platform, because sometimes I will use a platform called Padlet. It's spelled Padlet. And I would share my screen and log people in. They will be able to log in and be able to type live on the screen. And I would have them just go through and answer all these questions. And then I would have them type the name of the person or people in the group they share a commonality with. And then what it does is that it allows them to start building relationships with individuals that they connect with. And this exercise was done with adults, not teenagers. I'm sure teenagers can adapt to it, but it was done with adults, and it was something that keeps people engaged, interactive, but also learning about themselves and learning about each other. This also is a type of assessment where you can as a facilitator, as a practitioner, you can identify mental blocks in people. Because sometimes, like myself, I was saying the best gift, some shoes, but on a me looking on the outside in, that's very cosmetic, in contrast to what Miss LaDonna shared. So that would be something as a male, I need to search deeper, because that could be reflective of a value system. It could be reflective of me being tired. It could be reflective of me not really putting effort to really meditate and comb through the catalog of my life and identify something that's of more substance versus just having some cosmetic shoes. It was nice, but we can go a little bit deeper with that. So you can provoke your people to go a little bit deeper, based on the relationship that you have, where they can pull more substance from the conversation than they would based on what I share. So question, you received a ticket for going 20 miles over the speed limit. How would you feel if the judge found you guilty before your case was heard? So you got a ticket, 20 miles per hour. You came to court, went before the judge, he or she read it, guilty, before you had any chance to share anything. How would you feel?
Wouldn't like it. But understanding the justice system in which we deal with daily and what I look like might be expected to some certain extent.
That's interesting. Ms. Tony, you got a response? How would you feel if you were in that situation?
I would be mad. Mad, upset. But too, I knew I was in the wrong. But not getting an opportunity to share anything at all, or the reason why, or anything like that. Yeah, I would be mad.
Understood. I so.
And I would say I'm there because, if you get a ticket, you just pay it, right? But if I'm there, then for some reason, I must not have thought that I was driving 20 miles over. So I wanted to plead my case, So,
yeah. We can deem that as condemnation before investigation. I basically already arrest you before even investigating your situation. Ms. LaDonna shared a real key point from the African American standpoint and the justice system that we live in. I'm rolling my eyes. And because once we, as practitioners and service providers, we cannot afford to generalize. We cannot afford to generalize. We have to take our clients on a case-by-case scenario. We're going to have different prejudices in our minds because of the culture that we live in. But we can't afford to just immediately, okay, because this person fits a profile of a people from a general standpoint, that person is guilty before I even heard them out. Our clients have probably experienced that. Not saying that they haven't played a role in their offense, but sometimes I'm sure when you listen to them and it's hard because sometimes our viewpoints can be skewed. We don't feel as though we did anything wrong. I give you this scenario, and I'm only giving a profile just because of the type of training that we're doing. African-American male in his 60s. And what takes place with him is a situation is that he enrolls in the class, and then we do the preliminary work with him. Describe yourself. Who are you? How would you describe yourself? How did you get here? What took place that, placed you in these classes? What do you hope to get, from this therapeutic experience or session itself? And how will you know, when you're done? How will you know when you have grown outside of your court mandate if your objective is outside of just getting it done for the courts? So the person paints himself as knowing that he needs patience. That's one aspect. I'm a person that stays to myself, and I help people, when I can. I like to be helpful, but I know I need to work on that patience, man, because I don't like how circumstances make me feel. Every word that a person releases from their mouth will be tested by trial, tribulation, and persecution. Because when whatever we release, it has to be tested to see if it's really rooted in us. So in this case, the person made those statements. I know I need to work on my patience. I agree with you based on what you tell me. But now there's an experience that accompanies both of us. I'm involved in it, lets me know, yeah, you need to work on your patience, because it was an opportunity for that person to work on the patience in the moment, but because they, what I call, emotionalized a scenario, they lost the opportunity for further growth and development. And him and I will discuss it in our class next week. But I give that because that was an opportunity, for that person to grow outside of, that experience that they had. But because he wasn't as sensitive or emotionally intelligent to it, that opportunity to grow was forfeited. But it'll come again. But going back into the topic itself, the subtopic is condemnation before investigation. I had to listen to him to really investigate, where he was, without just, putting a label on that individual based on their profile and based on what they said. There's the two letters in investigation. The first two is IN, inwardly. Have to listen and identify what's going on inwardly with the person, so we can provide the best service for them. For my word, cultural prejudice. Prejudging a person or a group of people based on a stereotype, premature judgment is guilty until proven innocent. The best example that I can give you that comes right to my mind is African-American males with locks, or some called dreads. Immediately, we as a society put those people in a box because of what's projected, what there's Netflix, television, social media. We have these images that promote a negative connotation associated with these people. And it's hard because unless we have a one-on-one experience with them, all we can go off, when I say we, I'm speaking in general from us as society, we don't have enough intel to make wise decisions or to discern based on these individuals. Gotcha. Moving forward, we are all sponges. It's going to take us into a brief video. I'm going to share with you in a sec. Give me 1 second to pull it up. Please bear with me, people that are watching live or recorded version. Give me 1 second. All right, we have returned. I'm sharing my screen with you. We are all sponges. About to set it up. Sharing the sound. Here we go.
Slinging spaghetti bending, Victor Mon, Perry Como, Luciano Pavarotti, Solo Mio.
Cheap gold chain wearing, fried chicken and biscuit eating, monkey ate baboon, big thigh, fast running, high jumping, spear chucking, 360-degree basketball dunking, titsoon, spade, mulling yarn.
Slanty-eyed, me no speaky American, own every fruit and vegetable stand in New York. Bullshit Reverend Sun Young Moon, Summer Olympic 88 Korean kick.
Goya Bean eating 15 in a car, 30 in an apartment, pointy shoes, red wearing, menudo, meter, Puerto Rican cocksucker. Yeah, you.
It's cheap. I got good price for you. Near catchy. How I'm doing? Chocolate egg cream drinking, bagel and deluxe, banana for this.
Yo! Hold up! Time out! Time out! Y'all take a chill. And that's the double truth. Ruth.
All righty. They're all sponges. Sharing my screen with you. Labels. How do the men in a video clip feel about themselves? Were any of the labels in the video clip positive? Where do you think those labels came from? Who do you think those labels will affect? I think that's my only question. Okay, yeah, and how would those labels affect you? Ms. Tony, you can take one of those questions and give us a response, or we can go through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and touch them all. Whatever's clever for you.
That was a lot. I remember seeing that movie, and when I seen it, I thought, "Oh my God!" But as far as how do they feel about themselves, it can't be good. It can't be good. So all of the, I think it's like a reverse thing. So all like the self-hatred, all of that comes out. And I think that they kind of, it's like projecting on to someone else the way that they feel inside. But like culturally, just growing up in a household, my dad was a racist. And my children were mixed race. So, but understanding from him growing up, and my grandfather was lynched and actually drugged behind a car and was had amnesia for almost a year. But anyway, with that, so culturally, yeah, we sponged on that. And although my children, you know, I ended up dating a guy that was white, Japanese, still, I can still understand it in the sense of that, of sponging off of what you've been taught, that they can't be trusted, like the white devils, you know, and all that. And of course, we see that in the media. We see that not only media, but, you know, we have personal experiences. But I'm just saying, yeah. So I would say with number one, of course, yeah, I think it's a projection of how people feel inside, or not, they don't get the validation culturally or at home. And I think that it can spill over into other races. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
I understand you totally. But
Okay.
one piece that you said that was really a highlight for me was the first question: how do the men in the video clip feel about themselves? And your response was, "It can't be good." And I believe, and I feel strongly to a degree in this statement, is that I can't feel good about myself if I'm downgrading another person. I can't truly feel good about myself in the purest sense if I'm downgrading another person. And in that video from the movie, the director Spike Lee, Do the Right Thing, those individuals saw themselves as individuals. They didn't see themselves as a community. You can be a part of a community and not lose your individuality, because we need your individuality to make up the community. If you take an example of a puzzle, I've never put together a puzzle where any of the pieces were the same. All the pieces of the puzzle were different. But when you put those different pieces of puzzle together, you had the puzzle, you had the whole image that you saw in the box. So it's not meant for us to duplicate or replicate one another. We're all fearfully and wonderfully made, but we're all one. When people are segmented and don't see themselves as one, then that's when it becomes an issue, and goes back to the statement that was made earlier in this facilitation was humans. If we don't have anything in common, which is small percentage, but let's just say that we don't. One component that we have in common is that we're both human, and that we're all humans. None of the labels in the video were positive. Positive meaning not only in a good sense, but positive meaning adding more motivation, fuel, and momentum to each individual reaching their full potential. Where do you think those labels come from? You share a real strong reference point of family, my dad, and his experience. And their experience probably came from family upbringing, geographical location. Some of the experience that we share with each other are valid, but are outdated. Some of the experiences that we share, especially us, majority of us being adults, many of us have families or some type of reach out inside our immediate household or outside our immediate household. Some of the experience that we had were valid. I'm saying some, keyword, but they're outdated. They don't fit in 2021 when our parents had experiences. We didn't invalidate them. We didn't minimize them. Okay, that occurred. But where my life is at, that's not a part of my reality. Even though I can possibly see it still taking place, that's not something that I subscribe to. So that takes the limitations off and allows us to see more. What do you think who do you think those labels will affect? They'll affect the individual and the individuals that they encounter, whether it be consciously or subconsciously. And those labels can affect you, in a negative sense, or it can be in a positive sense where we realize, that's not who I am or where I'm going. And it's allowed them to identify the erroneous thoughts. The main function of a sponge is to absorb. As human sponges, we absorb our environment. When we human sponges are wrung out in conflict, we have absorbed, or what we have absorbed comes out. I'll repeat for clarity. As human sponges, we absorb our environment. When we human sponges are wrung out, that means in conflict, iron sharpens iron, whatever we have absorbed will come to the surface subconsciously. Keynote, our clients, and I'm speaking from my own personal, not personal, but more professional observation. When my clients don't have growth moments, I am concerned. I am concerned because what's being shared with them, I have to see the evidence of if they ascertain the ideas, the strategies, the revelation that was shared with them. If they come back into the class and they don't have any growth moments, my concern is, first of all, as a facilitator, that I relay the information to the extent that they can understand. Secondly, did they apply or did they attempt to apply what they got based on their understanding? Thirdly, are they still in a comfortable environment that they can predict, a controlled environment? Because if our clients are in a controlled environment, they're not going to grow. There's no growth. Growth doesn't take place at the comfort zone. I don't know who coined that thought, but it is a truth. There's no growth outside of the comfort zone. Not at all. But this last statement goes back to when we talk about the stages of change. What stage is the person at? Are they in contemplation, pre-contemplation? Does the person even want to change? Are they bound to the court mandate or order? I mean, that's something to consider. But going back to the statement that when the conflict occurs, something's going to come up, and whatever is going to come up is deep rooted and ingrained in our subconscious mind. So that's how I know when my clients have really internalized something. When they have a conflict, like I said before, the words that we release will be challenged through conflict to see if what we speak is truly in us. So if there's no conflict, then I don't know if that person is really improving or experiencing transformational change and growth. Because if they stand in the same environment, then there's no growth that's going to take place in the comfort zone. Ms. Tony, got any feedback about those statements? No, you good? Let me know you're jumping in every time. Self-examination. What are the ideas and philosophies we've absorbed that stop us from moving forward? I repeat, for those who are watching this on the recorded, what are the ideas or philosophies we've absorbed that stop us from moving forward in our growth and development as a person? If there's growth and development experience as a person, your professional life has no other option but to flourish, because you're going to see and hear differently. But you got to self-examine and ask yourself, am I comfortable? Am I comfortable? If I'm comfortable, then I've stopped. Why have I stopped? And I'm saying comfortable, and you become locked into your daily routine, and there's nothing new being produced, from your life and from how you handle things in life. If there's no uncomfortability, then I can tell you there's no growth, taking place. I'm uncomfortable all the time. And this is another statement that was coined by somebody, I don't know who the author was, but I have become comfortable with being uncomfortable, because that's my comfort zone. My comfort zone is being comfortable with being uncomfortable. So if we are offended or attacked by someone of another race or nationality, we gain nothing by amplifying our pain into general mistrust and hatred for an entire group of people. Rather than furthering stereotypes, we can reach out and seek for better understanding. Thomas Nelson. How does that happen? I go and talk with the person one-on-one. I go and have a conversation with the person one-on-one. And sometimes you all, and this is something that you can use in your personal life, professional life, or something that you can parlay to your clients. Sometimes it's not gonna work Sometimes that person is not going to receive what's being said because they're looking at the person that is coming from and not the content of what that person is saying. But you're still accountable for sharing. You're still accountable for sharing it with them because it's going to provoke them to be uncomfortable. And I'll guarantee they're going to hear it more than once from different individuals. So if we are offended or attacked by someone of another race or nationality, we don't gain anything by amplifying our pain into general mistrust and hatred of an entire group of people. Concrete example, I have a scenario or experience with somebody of another nationality or race, put quotation marks around that. I shared it with you on another training because we'll elaborate more on the later date. And I've had this occur. Where, and I'm distinguishing the race or nationality for purpose. White lady is speaking belligerent in a conversation with me. And did it sit well with me? No. Was I really like in a whole hissy fit about it? No. But I didn't get on social media and talk about white people and say all white people had a tendency to white ladies, this, that, and the third. Because that's the amplifier. There are amplifiers in our life that expose what's really in us. One of those amplifiers is social media. Social media is managed by us. So sometimes when we make these statements, well, society says, and I listen to people make these statements, well, we are society. So we have the ability to control the narrative. But I go back to the point by saying that social media will amplify that pain because it gives a person the opportunity to voice their opinion. And some of our opinions don't need to be voiced. Some of our opinions need to be kept to ourselves and filtered for truth. We need to filter our opinions through truth before we release what we think and how we feel in this specific context. But the best practice is to go in and talk with the individual or the group of people. We don't want to miss out on a gift someone is to us because we're focused on the package. What is this doing? What is cultural diversity training doing for us is that it's allowing us to self-assess. It should allow us to be conscious and more open of individuals who don't fit our cultural experience, whether it be in pigmentation or in upbringing or geographical location. It should open us up to be able to receive. It takes the restrictions and limitations off us and puts us in a realm of limitlessness where we can glean, pull, learn, work, cry, argue, talk with people that don't fit our experience. Because remember, that's the comfort zone and is indicative of survival mode, because I'm holding on to what I believe is the best way to think, the best way to look at it, the best action. It's not allowing me to be open to other ideas and experiences that don't fit my ideology, and it limits opportunities, and it keeps people in a poverty mindset too. Exercise who's who. We have a web designer, financial advisor, dental hygienist, veterinarian, and lawyer. Who's who? I would ask you, if you're watching this, get out a sheet of paper, notebook, and write down 1 to 5. Therefore, 1 to 5, you can associate who do you believe is the web designer, financial advisor, dental hygienist, veterinarian, and lawyer. Ms. Tony, you still there?
Yes, I'm still here.
Okay. So I don't think you're able to write anything down, correct?
No.
Okay. Give me who you think is who's the lawyer out of this group?
Say 3.
So you got the lawyer, lawyer is 3. How about the web designer?
Four.
Web designer 4.
Uh-huh.
Web designer 4. Dental hygienist.
2.
Dental hygienist 2. 2 more. Veterinarian.
5.
And then that leaves the financial advisor as well. All right, you can mute yourself. I'll talk it through. But we're gonna see what we're gonna grade this paper, you all. So facilitation note. If you get this training from me and you going through this is a good exercise that we're doing with Ms. Tony. So let's say you're doing it one-on-one. Then if your client is not able or they in motion for whatever reason, or our clients are normally visual, they're normally there, they're normally sitting in front of us. Sometimes they could be in a car, you never know, but they should always have their camera visible in any case. But let's just say that the client is visible, but they don't have access to a pen or a notepad. So you can take them through this and ask them those questions. We're gonna do the who's who. And you write it down for them from 1 to 5, and then you basically ask them the same questions that I asked Ms. Tony. Now I'm gonna grade it. So our number one financial advisor, you got that right. Number 2 was the veterinarian. 3 was the lawyer, you got that right. 4 was the web designer, you got that right. And then of course, 5 was the dental hygienist. So Ms. Tony got 3 out of 5. So then facilitators, as you go through this, you want to identify which ones the individual got right and tap into their thinking as to why they presumed that that person was that particular profession. So Ms. Tony said the lawyer. So the lawyer was number 3. So my question to Ms. Tony would be, why did you choose number 3 as the lawyer? Was there any particular reason?
No, I just felt like that was the one. I can't explain.
Was there any choices that you put any thought into?
Yeah, number 5, and I don't know what, pretty much, I didn't know which one to that. So I just, the second one, well, number 2, it just reminded me of my own dental hygienist. So that's why I did.
Number 2?
Uh-huh.
Okay. Oh,
So,
because that's the guy, right?
Yeah, yes,
I got you. There it is.
that's why.
Okay, there it is. There it is. You can mute yourself. I'm gonna talk to that point and show us how that's pivotal. Thank you, Ms. Tony, for sharing. So Ms. Tony said that she had number 2 as a dental hygienist because she has a dental hygienist that fits that profile. And see how alluring and how subconscious that could take place, that we're going to identify individuals based on our individual past experience. And sometimes that could become a box. Sometimes that could turn into the guilty until proven innocent, because that person fits a racial profile, quotation marks, or an ethnic background profile. So we got to, as long as we are conscious of it and we can help our clients be conscious of it, then that consciousness can equate to those walls transforming into bridges. But we got to identify the walls. So with Ms. Tony, that could possibly be a wall, especially if she's in a scenario where a person outside of her experience is saying something to her and she's rejecting what's being said because she's looking at the person instead of the content. That's something to consider. which stops her growth and development. So true or false? Let me see. Oh, okay. Let me go back. So I'm gonna stop to share. And then that's another poll that we will release. I don't know if people will be able to see this poll as they watch the video, but I'm still activated. Stop sharing this one. And then I'm gonna go to my next poll, which is true or false. So for those who may not be able to see the poll on the screen, I'm going to read it. There's 5 true or false scenarios. First one, number 1, women cannot drive. True or false? Women cannot drive. True or false? And then secondly, men are backbones of the family. But what I'm going to do from the facilitator aspect, I'm going to read these slow. So if you all are watching this, then you can be writing these down, or you can tap in with me at marcus@mazerlifecenter.com, and then I can share the training with you and the facilitation sheet on how to integrate it into your classroom. I'll read these slow. Number 1, women cannot drive. True or false? Number 2, men are the backbone of the family. 3, blacks are good at sports. Number 4, excuse me, politicians think only of personal gain and benefit. And 5, teenagers are rebels. Facilitator note for your life. If I place emphasis on a word, I can manipulate your interpretation of an entire statement. I can manipulate it. People are manipulated and don't even know it. So I'm making you aware so you can share with our clients. This is a master key, because I've done it in maybe a high school set and a vocational school set with teenagers. So I give you this quick example. I'll read number 5 again and listen to my tone of how I read it. I'm gonna use 2 tones. Teenagers are rebels. Second tone. Teenagers are rebels. Third, teenagers are rebels. So these are 2 different volumes or cadences that I can use to manipulate an answer from a person. So when I use the last one, I could say, again, I repeat it, teenagers are rebels. Or I can give it suggestive in the matter, teenagers are rebels. So we can influence how individuals think based on the tone, and then we insert a word and have them subscribe to a bias or a cultural stereotype, not because they have a one-on-one personal experience with the person or group of people we're referring to, but because of how we use the wording and the volume and the pitch. People can be manipulated. So be very, very aware of that. But without the pitch, there's still stereotypes associated with all of those different scenarios. And I'm gonna show you what the scenarios look like. Show you how people group them. And they may know it, they may not know it. I'll still show you how to do it and how to help your people identify those groupings. Let's see. Scrolling down, true and false. So the question that we have to ask ourselves is, which stereotypes fall under a gender stereotype? Which stereotypes will fall under a racial stereotype? and which stereotypes will fall under a group stereotype. And when stereotypes come, you have to be constantly aware of the stereotype associated with the generalization of a gender. Women can't drive. That would come from a person having an experience with a woman not knowing how to drive, transforming it into a generalization, and then amplifying it. Let's use the amplifier of social media. The amplifier in this case, social media. All you got to have to take place is people liking that same thought, because people had a tendency to look for thoughts that that agree with them, and they can be totally false. So you have more people buy into it, and if the majority is swinging that way, then it can become a stronghold. It can become a stereotype. It can become a restriction and a limitation. Secondly, which stereotypes will fall under a racial stereotype? Racial in this aspect meaning Black, white, so on and so forth, how you describe different ethnicities. Thirdly, which stereotypes will fall under a group stereotype? The group stereotype in this scenario was teenagers. So teenagers are rebels. So I was at school all day. I will stop my share. Give me one moment. All right, Ms. Tony, any feedback off that last segment?
Well, no, everything to me was it was a false. So they were all false.
You said it was false?
Yeah, because for my personal experience, like the number one, as far as driving, I could drive just about anything. So to me, that's not true. But I can understand how, I guess men can be.
Yep.
Yeah. So, and I mean, because we were old school, like my grandfather was like that. So I get it. But it wasn't true for me.
Got you. All right. Anything else you want to share?
Let's see, the teenagers. Yeah, any of that. Just labeling somebody just because they are in that particular group. That has not been my experience here. Yeah, there are some that, do kind of act out, but I wouldn't blanket the whole group as being rebels. And the other, yeah, I can't remember.
Okay.
Off the top of my head.
Good feedback.
Okay.
Good feedback. What I would add to what Ms. Tony was saying is that, because this is a good place to be. Her personal experience obliterated the stereotype in terms of women can't drive. Y'all listen to what I'm saying. Her personal experience obliterated the stereotype of women being bad drivers. Her personal experience, not hearsay. She did not say that someone telling her that women couldn't drive. She had a personal experience of driving various vehicles, which obliterates and brings a core conviction internally concerning that. Now, if she would have observed a woman driving, then she still could have held that core conviction, but it wouldn't have been as strong because she didn't have the immediate experience. She observed somebody with an experience, but it still could have become a core conviction, but it wouldn't have been as in depth. But it was in depth because she had a core experience. How is this relative to cultural diversity and us providing a service to our clients? Personal experience are valid, but they have to be assessed. And personal experience can be valid, but they can be outdated. Personal experience has to be assessed based on the source that personal experience comes from. I'm not saying the experience itself, I'm saying the filter. Was it your experience or was it someone else's? Was it your experiences or was it hearsay? Personal experience have to be, so if you're making a note, those are watching and a report, personal experiences have to be assessed and examined. Especially when you're working with your client, because they may have a personal experience. Sometimes people will share an experience based on hearsay. Something that they heard somebody do. They never was an eyewitness to it. Or like Miss Tony had she had her own personal experience, but I get an example of her seeing somebody do something and identifying that it is good or that the person could drive. Okay, that's okay. But what about her experience? But I want to really stress that personal experiences can be valid, but they can be outdated based on the evolution of society. So I can't stop at that personal experience that I've had. I have to continue to progress on as I evolve as a person and as society evolve. So some of the keynotes that I'm writing down is, the main one is personal experience can be valid but outdated. And my comfort zone is being comfortable with being uncomfortable. Our comfort zone should be being comfortable with being uncomfortable, and social media being an amplifier of this dysfunctions, I would add. Dysfunctions in our mentality and how we maneuver on a daily basis. So again, this cultural diversity training is not boxed in by, like I said, pigmentation. It's our whole entire experience, that we had, our filtration of that experience, which equates to our perception of those experiences. Got some more questions. Well, we got a video coming up. Let me pull it. Give me one moment. Be patient with me. This video that we're going to watch is entitled "I Was at School All Day." It comes from a series that a company that I was managing created called Divine Works Education and Training. The whole storyline is entitled "I Was at School All Day." In 6 minutes, we'll cut it in half, and maybe 2 to 3 minutes. Then we'll do a discussion. If Ms. Tony have any questions, or you all have any questions, you can always send your questions to, again, Marcus at Maze of Life Center or once we put this presentation or training on Slack, you can also voice your question there as well. Let's go into it, you all. I'm gonna share my screen now.
I was at school all day today. I promise you. I've been at school all day today. I say that to you because that was my response to the police officer who had beat me up. He accused me of being outside for an extended period of time on the corner of Sherman and 3rd. But I had been at school all day. When I was a sophomore in high school, we would get out of school normally at 2:45 to 2:50. You would head to the store, you would go to J&B, you come home, touch base with your parents. My group of people, we would go to the Boys and Girls Club to go play basketball, shoot pool, shoot bumper pool. All our activities was there. I followed the routine. I decided to go home. Now, I was selling contraband. I used to sell contraband at school and in my community as a sophomore in high school. I didn't take any contraband to school that day. I left it at home. I go home to grab my contraband, which I got exposed to because of my environment. My parents was involved in those type of activities. Gave me easy access. Go home, I get my contraband. My mindset is that I'm going to the Boys and Girls Club. I don't want to walk by myself because of the gang violence. I'm going to get one of my friends. I knock on his door, he's not there. I decided to make this trip to the Boys and Girls Club. I'm walking north, 3rd and Sherman. I look up, this car pulls up, says, "Hey, come here. Unmarked car, 4-door Impala. Police jumps out. I know it's the police. White man jumps out in the hood, quote unquote. That's the police. So I look up, I'm fearful. I got this contraband on me. I don't want no problems. I run, I take off. Now in my mind, I'm running out of my emotions, but my logic kicks in. I can't take him to the house. It didn't matter. He caught me in the alley anyway. Tackled me. Boom. Tackled me to the ground. My head hit the ground once. I'm on the ground. I'm not resisting. He punches me in the back of the head. My head bobbles up, goes back down, hits the pavement again with the rocks. My head is split open, bleeding. I don't recall if he hit me again after that, but I know I was hit at least once. I get cuffed, put me in the squad car. Why you run? What you got on you? Searching me aggressively. I don't got nothing on me. Why you run? Because I was scared. Now we headed down to the police station. Of course, they pressuring me, asking me questions about why do I run? Do I have anything?
I'll stop to share. I don't know, Ms. Tony, you had anything you wanted to throw into? You had anything you wanted to throw into the conversation?
No, I'm just listening. Kind of right now.
Gotcha. I totally understand. Thank you for chiming in. One aspect of the video itself is, and this is not me being biased because that's who I used to be. So once you go through a transformative change, your perceptions be pure where you can see your faults and you can see when you were faulted. But one aspect I would share with you all is that because of this cultural stereotypes, he saw a young man outside and automatically assumed that this person had something on them. Though I had been at school the entire day, the entire day. As soon as and when I was walking, I didn't stop on the corner. I was walking. So he just decided to, jump out and do this thing. But it was associated with a stereotype. Was I wrong for having contraband on me? Sure I was. But he was wrong as well. But that's something to take into consideration when we are observing individuals. We never want to be in a position where we are proving a person guilty before innocent. We need to we have to investigate. We don't want to be in the mindset of condemnation before investigation on that personal, that professional level. Let's continue on. So these are some of the questions that, as you watching this, you got your notebook out, going through the training with us and the recording. These are some of the questions I want you to answer. What happened and why did it happen? What were some of the emotions Marcus felt during the incident? What did you think that Marcus was feeling throughout the incident? Excuse me. How did Marcus feel after the arrest? Excuse me. What would you have said to Marcus? What would you have said to the police officer? Has anyone, you or anyone you know, ever been through this experience? Let me go back. What happened? Why did it happen? And I think the one I didn't necessarily want to go through each item itself. I wanted to give you all some insight on how this can be relative to our clients who have been arrested. You know what? What happened? So when we're going through our preliminary conversation, tell me what took place, just so I can understand. For understanding, I'm not necessarily trying to fault find. I'm generally wanting to understand your situation. What were some of the emotions that you was feeling during the incident? For me, back then, if I can connect with the emotion I felt, number one, I was scared. And secondly, I felt helpless because the police was beating me up. Thirdly, I felt some anxiety because I didn't want to go to jail. So fear was a lot of emotions. What would you have said to Marcus? What I would have said to myself was, you shouldn't have had that on you. But also I would have said to the person, you still didn't deserve that. Though you were at fault, you didn't deserve that. What would I have said to the police officer? The way you handled that was totally unacceptable. It didn't take all that. This is a young African-American young man, 16 years old. You took it past the extreme. You need to be reprimanded. And have you or anyone ever been through this experience? Yeah, sure. A lot of people that I was associated with been through a similar experience. But I would say you can pose those. What happened? The emotions. How did you feel? And those main three are questions that you can ask our clients to just really connect with them. I'm going to skip this part because I don't have a video for that drawn up. But moving forward, as we close out this part one of cultural diversity, what are some of the differences that you notice when you look at this whole collage of individuals? What are some of the differences that you notice? On the flip side, what are some of the similarities that you notice? So if I'm giving this in a teaching aspect to you, the number one similarity that I notice is that everybody's a human. The differences that I've noticed is that people have different hair, they smile different, they dress different, they look different, they have different ethnicities and backgrounds. But the number one aspect that everybody shares is everybody has two eyes, one nose, two ears, and two lips. Every individual is human, and every individual should be treated as such. despite their experiences. So we must ask. This is an awesome video. Let me see if we have time to show this. Right. Let's see. Oh yeah, I'm gonna go into this. This is a good video by one of my colleagues, Mr. Ernest Krim. Give me 1 second. I'm gonna cue this up, and we're gonna roll into this and finish out strong. Powerful video coming up. Get ready, y'all. Powerful. Not because it's my colleague, because it is what it is. 3, 2, 1.
Christmas morning, a young man was playing. On Christmas morning, a young man was playing with 3 of his favorite toys. He had a Batman, a Superman, and his all-time favorite, a Spider-Man. When he played with the Spider-Man, he loved it so much because the Spider-Man toy had web slinging action, and the Spider-Man toy could actually also stick to the wall, just like the actual Spider-Man. He played with it all morning. Got to the point where he wanted his other 2 toys to join in as well. So he took the Batman, he pressed a button on his wrist, nothing happened. He tried to put Batman on the wall, nothing happened, he fell down. He got frustrated, kept trying, same result, got even more frustrated. Then he took the Superman, tapped his wrist, nothing came out. Tapped it again, nothing came out. And you probably guessed it, yeah. He put Superman on the wall, nothing happened, he fell down completely. The boy was so frustrated, he eventually took the Batman and Superman and threw it across the room and broke it into pieces, not realizing their true potential as toys and superheroes. He was so focused on what Spider-Man could do that he assumed that all superheroes were just like Spider-Man. Again, not realizing that Superman is the strongest person and Batman was one of the most innovative superheroes ever. What's the point of this? We assume oftentimes as community leaders that all individuals that we work with should be doing things the same way, especially if they look alike. We assume that if the Spider-Man can do something like this, then maybe the Batman and Superman should and could too, because they're all superheroes. We erroneously make this assumption to the detriment of all parties involved, which leads to maybe toxic work environments, toxic relationships, and unknowingly, it could build up some type of mistrust, some type of passive aggressiveness that ruins everybody involved. We're tossing people to the side because we expect them to be a certain way, not realizing that they hold their own unique superpowers. They hold the potential to be the strongest person in the universe, like a Spider-Man, or they hold the potential to be one of the most innovative and creative superheroes in the universe, as a Batman, a tech genius. How do we stop this? Well, we employ the principles of ask. We have to first stop adding our own input. We have to stop adding our own viewpoint, and we have to stop adding our own opinion on things before we even know the person. Additionally, just because somebody looks like you does not mean they actually have the same experience. They could come from a completely different socioeconomic status. They could have experienced different trauma and a variety of other variables that you may not have really considered. So besides not adding our own input, we go to S. We have to seek the information. We have to see life from their vantage point. We have to seek information. We have to get to know them and see what is it really like to be them as an individual. Because again, we classify people as Black, white, Hispanic, Asian, but the over 7 billion people on this earth are all uniquely different in their own special way, regardless of how we classify them. And after we seek that knowledge, after we see how life is for them, we have to keep educating ourselves. We have to constantly learn. We have to understand that these different classifications that people create for them to group them together are actually going to change over time. For example, people who look like me are often called Black or African American now. 60 years ago, we were called Negro or colored. Times change, people change. What's considered politically correct changes and evolves all the time. How do we get ourselves out of that rut so we're not a victim of that mentality, we make sure we ask. A, we don't add our own input. We don't add our own viewpoints. S, we seek knowledge to see how they actually view life. We try to see things from their vantage point. And K, we keep educating ourselves because we realize these terms, these proclivities will adapt and change all the time. Because understand this, y'all, if we want to save the world together, we do need a Spider-Man, but we need Batman and Superman operating in their gifts too. And they can't do that if we're not asking the appropriate question. And with that said, on behalf of Mr. Cage and Divine Works in Education Training, I'm Mr. Ernest Krim III, your favorite history teacher, and I'm out, y'all. Peace. On Christmas morning, well,
Powerful stuff. Powerful stuff. I don't stick to the script. I'm gonna stick to the script on this one. Share my screen with you also to finish out. Let's see. Moving forward, the principle of acts. This is a good conflict resolution technique. Awesome. So let's go into it. We must ask continually to remain culturally sensitive and competent. Stop adding our own input, viewpoint, and opinion before we know the person. Seek, with the S, seek the information and attempt to see from another person's vantage point. So when we first encounter individuals or a group of people, we don't add our input before we get to know the person. We seek the information and attempt to see life from another person's vantage point. Question asking, become a questionnaire. I'm saying this to us as practitioners, service providers, but also on a personal level as well. And it's something that you can give to your clients. Become a questionnaire. Many times people don't have questions, and we talked about this in the survival mode training, is because they interpret another person's situation from their own understanding. So if I understand it from my interpretation, what you said, then I won't have any questions. But the person that's given the experience, wisdom, knowledge, information, or scenario, they may not be speaking, they may not be speaking from the place that we think they're speaking from, because they're not, they're speaking from their experience. So it's important to get clarity by asking questions. And the K, keep educating ourselves and constantly learn the terminology used to categorize race, ethnicity, gender, and social groups, because those terms are evolving, and to remain sensitive to the evolving change in our society, we got to continue to keep educating, ING, the process of, we got to continue to grow and be aware of the trends that's taking place in our society. Ernest Krim says, we all make assumptions. We all are well-intentioned. The problem is we don't know how these intentions impact the person on the receiving end, especially when they are from a different demographic. This demographic difference could be based on race, age, gender, religion, culture, or even socioeconomic status, as he stated in the video. Regardless, when we assume without truly inquiring means that I'm asking questions to understand. I'm not asking questions to debate you. I'm not asking questions to negate you. I'm asking questions for understanding, which is going to enhance me and expedite my growth and development as an individual, as a person. We are, when we assume without inquiring, we are possibly building walls as opposed to building bridges. What makes us different is what makes us valuable. Danielle Leslie. I'll share one idea, thought, or suggestion from today's training that you are committed to put into practice for 30 days. So you don't have to do this verbally. You're watching this, make a notation. And what's one idea, thought, suggestion from today's training that you are willing to commit to put in practice for 30 days. I commit to the group, and the video is to inquire more for understanding, not attempting to give an answer. Inquire more. I'm making notation to myself. Inquire more for understanding. Because I can give a lot of answers, and those answers they'll be spot on. But it's more important to really understand the totality of the person and their experience. It is our responsibility to transform walls of division into bridges of opportunity. Our responsibility means our ability to respond. So if I can respond in an appropriate manner to diverse cultural backgrounds, experiences, and people, then the wall that will be the wall to divide turns into a bridge of opportunity. And that responsibility, an example, is taking place when I said that I'll commit 30 days to inquiring more to understand, because that bridge connects us and unites us as a group. We are one race, the human race, with different colors. So that marks the end of today's training. Up, you made it through. If you have any questions, any feedback, please email me at marcus@mazeoflifecenter.com. Make sure you go through this, continue to rehearse it, take out the different wisdom keys and the applications. There's a lot of practical application in this. We'll do a part 2, because there's 3 parts. That's the first part. That's the foundational part. Then the second part and the third part, they go more into depth of the cultural diversity piece. I think if I can recall, the second part goes more into depth. I think the third part goes into a combination of more in-depth study, case scenarios, observations, practical, applicable methods, and a review. It brings everything together. We look forward to seeing you all next month at the CAMS Training and Development. I am Mr. Cage, Director of CAMS Training and Development and Talent Acquisition for Maze of Life, and we will see you soon. Have a great weekend and have a great week.